本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Monday, November 9th, and you're listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 358. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me today, we got Patrick Klepek.
Hello, hello. I'm here, waiting for the crust.
Rob Zachney. Ew.
That's right. That's not going to be. That can't even be. I don't know if Cado was recording at that point. I don't know if that can even be an extra.
Somebody here has got it. Somebody here has got it.
Rob is convinced. Some guy in Indiana is like, oh!
I got the crust. Rob is here. Cado is here. How y'all doing this morning? Listen, we cannot put 20 minutes on the clock, but I do want impressions about Four Seasons total lawn care.
So we still don't fully know how that happened, right? Like the working theory, I saw on Twitter, people were like, he thought he was booking the Four Seasons and they fucked it up. Then I saw people being like, that's not true, but it does increasingly seem
Total
like there may be
landscaping,
no other plausible reason.
Well, when Corey Lewandowski is out here saying like, people in Pennsylvania love to use the Four Seasons total landscaping. They love it. And it's like, oh boy, this seems like some working backwards spin.
It's so funny. It's funny.
The reporter who like couldn't get in. I don't know how they couldn't get in. Maybe there was just too many people. It's probably like vast majority of press covering this event. But he's like, whatever. I'm just gonna go to the dildo shop next door and like interviews the owner there, and he's like, I don't know what Trump is doing. He lost, man. This is just weird. And it was just like. There's a crematorium across the street.
There's a crematorium across the street. God. It came out today. It's worth saying that there was a sex offender speaking at that event. One of the guys who they brought up who had claimed to have witnessed fraud is someone who has sex offense in his background and has then turned into one of those people who tries to run for office over and over and over again every year. To the point where he worked on the Hillary Clinton New Jersey campaign as just like a local, not like in an upper rank situation, just as like a body on the floor, to move to do stuff. And when asked, someone from New Jersey politics was like, oh yeah, Daryl. Yeah. Yeah, we know about Daryl. I was like, I turned on the news and there he was.
So just ridiculous. A weird fucking gadfly. Well, of course he was going to end up with Trump. Of course Trump would end. Like, who is in the bunker in the closing hours of the Trump administration? Of course it's Daryl, who has to inform the other buildings in Washington about his sex offender status. Daryl going down Capitol Hill being like, I'm a registered sex offender.
Yeah, to be clear, his name was Daryl. I'm not throwing all Daryls under the bus. Daryl Brooks who claimed to have been a GOP poll watcher and is the one who said that they didn't allow us to see anything. So really just knocking it out the park, the Trump campaign. What a fucking wild weekend.
The weird thing, I know basically that street with the sex shop and landscaping company and the crematorium and probably the headstone place, like also there.
Yeah.
That is like every
it's called a statuary.
town in America has
they happen to make headstones also.
They'll do it if you
as long
ask.
as you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the area.
But yeah, you're right. Every small town, right? That's like it's just off the highway.
Yes.
It's it's like almost it feels like an industrial park vibe, but there's no right, exactly. There's no production anywhere. It's just this style of 100%. I've been through this place a billion times, in genre of place.
You know what? This was the promise of the Trump administration. It would go to the forgotten places and it would shine a light on the things that are 2 streets off of America's main streets.
Didn't know it was going to be shining a fleshlight, though.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing that the name of that place was Fantasy Island Bookstore. Also, by the way, just an incredible I mean, like
a parking island,
Yeah. Just
Jesus
zooming in and
Christ.
looking around the rest of this area. Yep, dude, forever marble, granite, quartz, and stone, a block away. Rob Zachney. He never misses. He don't miss.
Fuck.
I think here's the other weird thing about watching this all unfold. We basically knew Wednesday morning that like the odds of Trump winning this were actually like pretty, like, they were not good and they were diminishing fast. And it was just kind of weird watching, like, I don't know, the things can't be real until the TV networks like declare them real. And I understand part of this was the dread that like Trump would somehow dispute the election, means that if people call it for him, it is, or call it for Biden, means it is less likely that that is disputable.
Well, and they made the mistake of calling Arizona too early in some places. And if that could have plausibly flipped, it doesn't seem like it's going to. But like you saw like a path where, like it wasn't going to flip to Trump, but it could have been like pretty disastrous in terms of like trust in institutions. It
could have gotten into into recount territory or something. And at that point, you're like, well, we fucked up. We have to walk that back. We've already declared Biden the president. And now, that gets rough.
Yeah, but it was just a little weird to me, being like, for all the things like should have, like, you think, like we talked about how things changed after 2016, that there was still kind of this like pressure to be like, they need to call the race. This needs to be, you know, and that like Saturday became the day where it was like Trump's officially lost, when like really it had pretty much been a wrap by Thursday.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those weird things where it's like, we know there are things in the world that we know are socially arrived at that don't like. We can just say that at this point, if we all agree Biden won the election, he becomes president-elect. If enough kind of large social signifiers click into place and say, yes, we're reading this event such that from here on, we're going to say he was the president-elect, even though there's still counting going on. We're just going to, it's time to do that. It's just one of those things that's like, this is, when do those people pull those levers to then say, now is the time that we're all going to agree? Like, we could have all stopped worrying about that part of the election 2 days earlier based on
And I did, but I was on text message threads with, because I'd like read enough like number dives of, you know, the Nate Cohns of the world, and I was like, all right, I'm good. Like, I'm going to go and just like live my life, and I'll wait
till
it's
walk
called.
with sandals.
Yeah, with sandal. Oh, love me a good sandal. Even a bad sandal, it's fine. Like that's better than like almost any shoe on a sunny day.
Sandalwood, let me burn it.
Anything with sandals involved, honestly.
But like my mom or other people in my life, I had to like, we're constantly going back into like the worry wart. They're like, no, like, because you know, if you think from the perspective like normies, it's like they see like, oh, he's filing lawsuits, like, oh god, right. This could go, and like a normal person that's not paying attention to like 700 like, you know, politics feed on Twitter where someone can explain this is not going to go forward because these didn't go forward, like, and I can see the matrix in front of me and how it's all fine. You know, that's why those network calls are important. And actually why they waited as long as they did is probably also important, because then it was allow like my mom to call me like teared up and be like, finally that, you know, fuck that guy. And I was like, you can take it. You can enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening. Like, you know, we're good. I mean, lots of things are bad.
Yes,
like COVID, we're over 1,000 deaths a day on COVID again and just like ignoring it. But that guy.
Yeah, I very much stick to what I said on Twitter, which is like, we got a ton of fucking work to do. But like getting rid of Trump is a step in that work, right? Like if
you can enjoy it, like you can have the moment, you can savor the victory to get ready for the next fight.
I think most of us were very critical of what Biden, campaigned on, very skeptical about what policy work will look like. I think getting rid of Trump is a fucking clear net good. And I think at this point, especially in this context, especially in the context of COVID, especially in you know the context of the place that America is at more broadly. Again, I think like a lot of folks, I'm very worried about what the GOP looks like in a few years and who they put forward. We'll get there and we'll work against that then. But right now, like,
I don't know who said it on Twitter. I want to say it was someone from Defector, but if it's not, I apologize. But it was basically like, who the fuck is ready for the first term of the John Kerry administration in 2020? And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Was it with the picture of John Kerry windsurfing?
God.
It was good, yeah.
But like, and the other thing is, like, in a very real sense, the election is not over. Like, the election now continues in Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, 100%.
Like, this is a huge, like, what is possible in the next 2 years really hinges on what happened in Georgia. And I think I don't know enough about Georgia politics to say like whether it's a done deal that like the GOP holds those seats. There was a massive wellspring of Democratic votes that came out of Atlanta and other places in Georgia.
Given the way everything else went on Tuesday, was there any inkling in your mind that there was a chance that like Georgia even like, I mean, I threw that out almost immediately as things started tilting in certain ways. Like, well, all right.
You and I were talking though, where like you might have been pretty drunk by then, but we were talking like election night, and we were chatting anything about TVs. But like then I was like, Patrick, hold on. Like, do you see the needle? Do you see what the needle just did, Patrick? Do you see what the needle just did?
I was in the darkness of my mom's living room. Like the TV would turn off every like 5 minutes, and Rob would be like, "Did you turn off the light?" And like, no, the TV went into sleep mode. And then I'm using my phone to talk to him on Discord, and so I'm just like not checking. He's like, "Hey, all right, I know we were supposed to talk about the Bears and TV sizes, but did you see the needle?" I was like, no. And yeah, it did. It started moving towards Biden, which was surprising, and still is surprising that he's going to pull it out.
Really quick on the Georgia stuff. One, like if you were in Georgia right now, please, be mindful about when you need to get ready for this follow up, which is in January, correct?
January 5th, I want to say.
Yeah. Please look into
the voter registration deadline is December 7th.
I think it's early December. Yeah, somewhere. That's what I've seen. So please get registered for that and go vote. And two, like to build on that, to emphasize why that is, I think we talk a lot about electoralism, but I want to like provide briefly a broader kind of way to think about history and strategy, which is to note that a lot of the ways we think about the world are we talk about them as if they're universal truths, and instead it's important to understand that basically all strategy is contingent, like all action is contingent on the context in which it's happening. And on top of that, it's important to think about change as I go back to Gramsci's wars of position and wars of maneuver a lot. For Gramsci, what we think of as revolution is like a war of maneuver. You push, you like attack. But there's also a war of position. And for me, the place electoralism has at all is to be one of the many contingent strategies you use in the war of position. You're getting people in place. You're producing the possibility for future revolution in a sense. I think that is very clearly and pointedly what winning those elections could be, because specifically what's on the table is about disenfranchisement, about making sure that we have the people necessary to open up the possibility for larger change down the road. And it's rare that like the stars align such that I'm like the person who's like, go register to vote right now. But this is like so clearly one of those moments that will have clear material impact on so many people's lives and open up the possibility, especially right now, for a world in which the people who are pushing the Democratic Party to the left have the opportunity to hold the center's feet to the fire and say, listen, we have a window. We have a window to do what the early Obama administration failed to do and take, serious action towards righting this fucking ship and making people's lives materially better, building, solidarity, across class lines, building class power, and making people's lives better at the end of in the middle of a pandemic. So, like, if there's ever been a time, if you're in Georgia right now, to get involved and make sure to try to swing this as best as you can, now is the time. Also, it seems as if the right might be eating itself for the next 2 months or so, as no one comes to Trump's aid, and that could fuck the turnout in Georgia in an interesting way.
So
I did not expect. Like I go ahead, Patrick.
I think the point is true. I think it makes Georgia one where I thought our best odds were a 50-50. You can get one.
A week ago, I definitely thought there's no way.
I think you can throw the dice up and I think it probably still leans red.
It's tough.
Like there's work to be done. It's not going to be easy. But I think that Rob had mentioned this on Twitter, and so I wanted to throw it to the readers if they have, the listeners if they have suggestions. Is that so like after I gave a bunch of money to Bernie, and then after that there was so much money coming into the Democrats, I didn't really see much reason to like contribute money anymore to, other than like my local candidate, like very targeted things that I thought like I don't need to give any money to Amy McGrath or like any of these. Honestly, Jamie Harrison, who I wanted him to beat Lindsey Graham, like he didn't need any more money, and if anything, the money at some point was probably hurting him. But like I'm ready to fucking give for like this. If I was gonna give the money, now it seems like I want to do that, but like I want to know like where, if there are obvious better ways to do that than it is to just like give it to the Democrats or to the funds of Asaf and I'm forgetting the other guy's name.
Warnock.
Yes. Right. are there better places? Like, are there like turnout? Like, seems like knocking on doors is a big thing that Democrats didn't do for, in some ways, good reasons that bit them in the ass by the end of this cycle. Like, those are the sorts of things where it's like, those two candidates are going to get flushed. I'm not worried about like money. So then I start thinking, where should I put my money? And like, where are the targeted ways to do that? And if people have ideas that are beyond just
getting people to the polls,
other groups or like on the ground organizing that like, you know, my $500 would like be better suited to, like, I would prefer to, you know, swipe the credit card in their direction. But I don't, maybe some of that stuff will bubble up as this starts like settling in. But if people have ideas, I'm at least curious to hear them.
Literally just saw this tweet. I don't know if this helps, so we can look through that. But there's a bunch of like different, mostly organizations that help people get to the polls and get people registered and stuff.
And also, Rob just linked a thing. Also,
yeah.
Rob, where did you get this link?
Yeah, so this came from our friend Chef Lu Bu. Reached out to an organizer in the Atlanta area, King Williams, and he ran it by a network of activists in the area. And so this is, I think the spreadsheet is generated by They See Blue Georgia, I think. But it is kind of an index of a lot of get out the vote and community organizing efforts that were hard at work in this election cycle. And what you'll notice if you go through the spreadsheet is it gets pretty granular as well, right? So like what you get away from really quickly is a general, we're turning Georgia blue, we're organizing for Democrats, we're organizing for Ossoff. And you start getting into the Georgia Muslim Voter Product, Latino Community Fund of Georgia. And I do suspect that like in an election like this, mobilizing these sort of closer to the ground organizations is going to be really critical.
Yeah, right.
Because this is like,
these are the people who are there.
Every person that can possibly vote needs to vote. Like a
TV. My money funding a TV ad or a Facebook like targeted post is not. I don't feel like that's like that's covered. Like that's the money will come for that. So
you think about some of the early going states in the primary and the ways in which bringing those folks to the polls was a big part of like some early Bernie wins, because it turns out that there are communities who want to be part of this process, but who have been totally kind of ignored. And so, or who again have material walls in terms of like, hey, who is going to watch my kids right now? Who is going to help get us there, etc. And so like, working with those groups who are already in those communities, not people who are parachuting in, is ideal.
Well, and I think, obviously, Stacey Abrams' Fair Fight organization is probably one of the bigger orgs that you can give to and have a feeling that that's going to get things done. I just do tend to be skeptical of the large campaign organizations, just because like the Democratic Party has a lot of people whose careers are trying to help Democrats win elections, but they also want to get rich while doing it. And I do I have become pretty skeptical of what happens when like local campaigns become heavily funded and begin interacting with the national party.
Well, at some point it's like they're not going to give up too much money. They're not going to start cutting checks to smaller groups, but at some point you can have too much money and not have like there's no effective way to spend it based on like the group's goals. And so that's why I think Stacey Abrams is probably going to do okay. I think she's going to get plenty of money. So that's why I just was like thinking through, it's nice to have this spreadsheet, but I also then look at this spreadsheet and I'm like, well, now I don't know what to do with this. I need someone to highlight this spreadsheet and tell me like this is, kind of like, what is it? It's kind of like Act Blue and stuff where it's like, you can like pick where it'll like spread it across a bunch of different places. And maybe that stuff is going to pop up and I'm anxious about it, too early, but I'd rather be anxious about it too early because it truly is like the difference between Biden just being like a boring shield for 4 years and even just low-hanging fruit like buying into Medicare and like a voting like expanded voting rights. Like I think those things are possible with like a 50 split, and like that shit all goes away if
you at the very least stuff Mitch McConnell inside a locker with 50 votes.
Please.
You could be like move to shove Mitch inside a locker and not let him out, even if he has to go to the bathroom, and just by acclamation, pass it, and then just like bam into the locker.
I think a lot about the failure of our like social studies and history curriculum that I don't know the name of anyone historically who has been a Senate Majority Leader as influential as Mitch McConnell, because I know those people have existed throughout history, and I'm obviously not like a U.S. Historical scholar, and if I was, maybe that's something I would know. But the idea that like in 50 years, if people are not teaching what a fucking scumbag, a successful scumbag Mitch McConnell has been over the last, since 2008.
Last decade especially.
Yeah, but especially this decade, especially as he kind of really started to ride in 2010. It's a failure of education, because you don't understand the degree to which this motherfucker has shaped not only the discourse, but people's lives by being an obstructionist for the last decade. I want nothing more than to see him on his ass before he decides to retire. Like, all I want is for him to go out on an L so bad.
I mean, I think one reason he's been able to do this is all of us are taught in social studies that, like, one, the Constitution was a design of intention. Not they tell us they're compromises, but they also say it's good compromises, right? Like, it's good that the small states had equal representation. And I'm like, yeah, it probably is. Those poor little small states. States are people too. They shouldn't get bullied by them big states. I'd hate that. I'm little. I'm a child. Yeah. But then, but I think what you have to confront with McConnell is he's a guy who realized that, like, the Senate is an institution that by design was already going to check the democratic impulse in this country, but then also realized it presumes a lot of good faith and goodwill. And if you have an actor in there who just decides, I am going to use all these tools in bad faith, and I'm just going to fuck it up that way, there is nothing to stop that. I was taught that the filibuster made some kind of sense as a kid. One of the things about the Senate is they have a filibuster. So that, like, really important things, they have to be passed by overwhelming majorities.
Right.
Also not in the Constitution, right? That's just an invented fucking bullshit measure. But I think if you were to ask most people, and this is even true of me until someone like pointed out in a Twitter thread, I just assumed it was like, that's why it's such a big deal to get rid of it, is because, like, geez, you're like changing kind of a fundamental part of the structure of, like, the foundation of this country. Like,
remember when you found out about the blue slip process? If a judicial nominee has a senator from his home state say, hey, don't promote this guy, then he just doesn't get advanced to a vote. It just doesn't happen. And I'm like,
and McConnell just said,
what?
Nah.
Well, I'm sorry. Like, is the senator from your state like the fucking feudal lord of, of your state?
I also think about this a lot, which is I grew up thinking about states as a very distinct thing, as being really big counties, right? Or something like that. And in fact, we are a federation of nations. They are states in the word that we mean state when we refer to, for instance, a country. And obviously this is inside of a federal system. But when you start thinking about them as little fucking feudal states, a lot of things click into place around the ways in which laws can be different, the ways in which local powers are given a great deal of authority in this way that is, like, not just because they are there to represent what people have voted for, but in that exact way where they can just kind of, by fiat, make certain decisions that really affect a lot of people. It's really absurd. Our system is a little fucked, it turns out. Anyway, we should end our politics a minute. Thank you for talking for exactly, what did I say, 5 minutes.
20 minutes.
And we can talk about video games now. We'll see what this week holds. I'm better energy in the air this week. I feel like we got some sleep. I think it's going to be okay.
Do we get fed, Patrick?
Yeah, we got some sleep. But if only I had something to snack on.
Where do you want? What part of your body do you want to turn into a cheeseburger?
That's
you
a problem.
All of it. Holy shit! Is that in the cards? Holy shit! Yes, all of it.
Your teeth, your nose.
Please,
your head,
Rob Zachney,
your arms.
cheeseburger person, fan art, I'm begging you.
Look up the mayor for Bugsnax. He's in a lot of the trailers and the screenshots. Rob would be that mayor.
He'd be the mayor.
And he could be the mayor cheese. And I don't know. Do you put cheese
I
on a
typed
cheeseburger,
Mayor
Rob? I can
Rob
see you being
Zachney.
someone who says no cheese.
Cheeseburger's good.
I typed Mayor Rob Zachney instead of Mayor Bugsnax, so I'm already off to a good one.
Wait, this guy looks like he's bummed out though.
He is. Well, things are not going well in the world of on Snacktooth Island. Bugsnax, which in a different timeline we briefly talked about on last Friday's podcast. Until then, I looked at the specifics of the embargo and went maybe I said too much, and Cado, maybe you need to delete that. And so this is a launch title for the PS5. It's also available on PS4. You will be just fine. On whatever platform you play it on. It's also coming to PC.
So I don't need a next-gen console.
No, you do. No. This is not a technical showcase.
Taking full advantage of the powers of next-gen technology.
No, if anything, it makes you slightly worried about every developer having to somehow support 4K and being well, some of these engines are going to struggle even with basic geometry and small environments to hit those. Bugsnax doesn't have terrible frame rate issues, but there were moments where it's I can see hints of how this is going to go wrong in some ways with this big push for 4K when sometimes developers have trouble hitting 30 frames a second on 1080p. Anyway, it's the new game from the developers of Octodad, which they're such an interesting studio for how long it's been a whole generation since they've released a game. Octodad was the developers Young Horses, based out of Chicago, which is cool. One of the few developers out here, and Octodad was a student project, which then got polished up and expanded into this really quirky game from last generation, and they ported it to fucking everything, and it was popular everywhere it went, and that kind of afforded them this opportunity to kind of just tinker away at a bunch of different ideas. I wrote a story some months back that they tweeted the idea for this game 7 years ago when they were just goofing around, before they had become more of a known studio, and they were just tweeting out ideas with Eric Pope, formerly of Harmonix, now of Ubisoft, and was I don't know, what if you made a game that was Pokemon Snap, and some other things, and I tracked down that tweet, and was this is what this game is. Bugsnax is, you end up on this island because of you're a newspaper reporter who gets a tip, hey, you should come to this place, Snacktooth Island. And so there's some weird research going on here. You should see what these Bugsnax are and, blow this whole thing wide open. And so you go out there, you're on this airship thing, and what I can only describe, it's in the trailer, but what I can only describe as Mothra combined with a pepperoni pizza.
That one is me. That is the
That's
one.
you. Okay, so Rob is Mayor Cheeseburger. Austin is the pepperoni Mothra. Name the name.
Oh,
that's the name of my new LP. My hip hop group, the Pepperoni Mothra.
Pepperoni Mothra. You already know what it is.
You already know what we eat.
You already know what we eat. Italian meats and cheeses all day, nigga. And I was also gonna say it's a good PSN name. If you ever wanted to change from Mecha Mothra to Pepperoni Mothra, that would actually be.
I gotta turn over with a generation and find the pepperoni on my wall the same way that I named Mecha Mothra because there was a Mecha Godzilla and a Mothra on my wall in San Francisco.
Anyway, so there was a pepperoni Mothra there.
And it knocks you off, and you stumble upon this really kind of decimated town on Snacktooth Island, and you meet the mayor, and they reveal to you that we had this community here centered around our love of Bugsnax, and some things went wrong. This scientist went missing, and everyone kind of left, and I need you to help me get everyone back to town and try and solve this mystery and, what's going on with these Bugsnax. And the Bugsnax are kind of what's been the focus of their marketing and the trailers, in which they are little different bugs, ants and animals too, combined with different food groups. Not food groups, just foods. Cheeseburgers, hot dogs, strawberries.
So the important thing here is these are not ingredients. These are not vegetables.
These are creatures. These are living, breathing animals.
Sorry, I mean that the food objects.
Oh.
It's not just strawberries. It's finished foods. It's cheeseburgers and French fries.
Yes.
It's not beef and
no. So yeah,
potatoes.
sometimes it's base things like the strawberry is this thing called strawberry. Every time you capture them,
I think we found out what Patrick is. Patrick is
yeah. Okay. I'll be Like it's a little strawberry that like kind of just kind of like putzing around in the world and goes in a circle. It's it's one of the less intelligent. Oh, well, that's I don't know. I don't want to be a strawbee. No, I would be a very cute strawbee. So I'm willing to.
You would be very cute. Yeah, you gotta get the hair.
But one of your
on
tools
there,
in the game
but...
is a strawbee in a globe that you can point point a red light like a cat, and it will go after it, and you can use that to kind of lure different creatures around. But yeah, it's sometimes base ingredients, but it's oftentimes you're getting it's just a hot dog, but also happens to be like an ant, and it kind of goes about the world, and everything is some sort of like food and bug mashup. And there's like a couple different like what you're doing in the game. Primarily is you're going to these different, it's first person, you're going to these different sort of biomes where there are different sort of creatures. Like there's a desert area, there's a wintry area, there's a beach area. And you have a camera that you can take out, you take pictures. You don't save those pictures. It's not like you're doing like a gallery like Pokemon Snap, although you can take pictures using the social functions of the controller. But you take a picture and then it like gives you a hint about their behavior. And then it also will map out what their sort of like walking pattern is, and you can disrupt that. But basically, you can always see where they're going to go, and it's always like kind of in a circle or like in a kind of set behavior. And then and it also shows you their likes and dislikes, and their likes and dislikes can be other animals or other creatures, other Bugsnax. It can be different flavors. So you also, one of the other main tools is you stock up on ketchup and mustard and barbecue sauce and all these different condiments, and they will have different reactions to those. And so a lot of what you're doing is trying to figure out what are their behaviors, what can you do to kind of entice them towards this trap that you can set down, and you can capture them. And the example I point to in my review that went up today was that there's this sequence where you're in a desert area, and there are these two. I want to make sure I pull up the description because the writing on this is very funny. But you come across these two hot dog licking things. They are called. Where is it? I got it right. Yes, a weenie worm, which Bugsnax describes as a lazy little worm. It's only motivated by ketchup. Which, as I point out, like, look, some of us like ketchup. I get it.
Ketchup.
But so there's this sequence where you come across these two. It's a variant of the weenie worm, and that's often what will happen. Is like you'll find one version of this creature, and then you'll find some version of it that acts slightly differently.
Okay.
And so in this term, so the weenie worm looks like a hot dog. And then when you find the shy weenie worm, it looks like a Chicago-style hot dog, which, if you're unfamiliar, is like a very specific variant on the hot dog. It is a hot dog in a poppy seed bun with yellow mustard, onions, relish, dill pickle, tomato, peppers, and celery salt. It's like a deep dish pizza. Like you're basically throwing a whole meal on top of this hot dog. I do not personally care for the Chicago-style hot dog. I'm a basic ass, like put some ketchup and mustard on a hot dog. But I don't fight it. Like it's that is what it is. It's a Chicago style hot dog. And so the one rule with the Chicago style hot dog is you don't put ketchup on it. And so this is important because when you come across the shy weenie worm, you notice that the difference from the regular weenie worm is that it hates ketchup. And so you get into this little area where you've got two of them and they're kind of going in circles. They're not doing anything to one another. And what you need to figure out is like, well, okay, all right, so I scan them and it says, hates ketchup, loves mustard. So you look through what your tools are. It's like, well, I haven't gotten to the biome that lets me collect mustard yet. So I have not, the easy way to capture a lot of the creatures is to spray the condiment along the ground. Yeah, just throw it all over the ground and they make their way to the trap and boom, you're good. And in this case, you can't do that. And so I'm sitting there kind of racking my brain. What am I going to do? Okay, I'm looking around. I'm scanning them again. And you have these two shy weenie worms. They don't like ketchup. And I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And a lot of this game is just like, let's see what happens. Like, it's just like throwing shit around and then like seeing how the AI responds to it. And so I tossed ketchup on top of one of the shy weenie worms. And again, you don't put ketchup on a Chicago style hot dog. And this other shy weenie worm looked at this motherfucker and said, no. Get out of here. Like, you are not welcome in this territory anymore. And the other Chicago style hot dog attacks the other one, flips him on his back, knocks him out for 10 seconds, which allows me to go over, collect him, and I can go on my way. So it's like an instance where there's a lot of layers to that joke,
Yeah.
but I think it is indicative of the sense of humor of Bugsnax, and that's sort of like goes hand in hand with the other part of it, which is it's also a game about what is it like to build a community? What is your individual role in a community? It is, there's all these nice side stories about being in long-term relationships and the ups and downs of that, like, expressing one's like feelings to friends, working through identity and queerness. And like, there's a lot going on. Like I liken it to sort of a kind of a good Pixar movie where like, it's kid accessible. This really is in a lot of ways a kid game, but it has a lot of really interesting storytelling happening on top of it. And it has the most, a really strange ending. It is an ending for the ages that is worth seeing.
So it doesn't have like a "don't hug me, I'm scared" like harsh side turn into horror. It's just
no. And
every time I watch this game, I'm like, this feels like there's a turn coming. Do you know what I mean?
So there is.
Okay.
Yes, I will say there is like that's part of the ending is
there is a turn. There is a
turn.
Okay.
But I like.
But it's kids friendly. But it is kid friendly all the way through.
Yeah, and I don't think the kids are gonna pick up on truly how demented the ending
okay
is.
I love it.
I'm not sure you want to talk about it with your kids and explain it, but it's fine. Like it's not ghoulish or it's okay, sure. All right, that's what's been going on here. Fine. Because I guess I should to lay some of the groundwork for that. It doesn't spoil anything, but like what these people have been doing on Snacktooth Island is they eat these creatures and then they adopt their characteristics. So you eat I forget what the fry is, but like there's basically like he's got a ketchup. When you go to a fast food place and you get the little paper cup of ketchup, that's its head, and then he's got fries sticking out of it, and he goes around. And if you were to eat one of those, then your arm or your leg or your teeth or your head, like all those manifest into a fry in some degree. So all the people you're encountering have all sorts of food characteristics. So they are obsessed with eating these creatures and then adopting their physical characteristics. So it's like, you walk in, you're like, well, there's a weird dynamic happening here. What are these people doing exactly? But it doesn't I had some people ask on Twitter after I tweeted my review, was like, well, I got like body horror vibes from this game. Does it go in like a spooky, weird direction at some point? And some of the trailers kind of hint at that, like where it's like, hey, there's some weird shit happening around the corner. And like there is, but it's played for laughs. Like it is always goofy. And like I played, a couple hours with my 4-year-old, and like she got such a kick out of like, okay, I'd ask her, which one do you want me to go catch? And then we go catch it. And then we go feed it to one of the people in the town. And then we could pick like, which arm turned into a fry. And like she found that to be like absolutely hilarious. And so there's that part of it going on, but it's not a horror game. I mean, it's weird, but it's not gross in that way.
Here's a unrelated question. Those little paper cups for ketchup? Mm-hmm. Do you know those expand? Have we talked about this? This blew my fucking mind. I want to share this. You're not supposed to dip it.
Are those like full origami basically?
Yeah, you unfold it so that you get a broader dipping surface.
Which I've never done in my life.
I've done it once. I read about it.
I've never seen it.
I've
never seen a person do this.
Wild. 1 second. I'm gonna
please.
Here, I'm gonna copy this video here. This video is called "Paper Cup Trick." Perfect for onion ring plus ketchup. I don't appreciate the onion ring and ketchup. That's not me.
Trick. This is just how they work.
Trick. But lots of people don't know this, Cado. Look at how broad. Look at the big dipping surface that you get by opening it up.
Yeah, I come from a family of 6, so like we already needed like 3 of these things, and in order for everyone to be able to get at it from around the table, we had to open them up. Like,
look at how
never in my life
since I was a child. Yeah.
No.
It's so much space. No. Rob, you look confused.
Just incredible. Incredible.
Look at that.
You think you can't learn something new in life? Look at this.
That was like a fucking coffee saucer.
It really does. It truly does.
Get in there, my dude.
Yeah, it's great. Look, the video I just sent now, you've been using ketchup cups wrong, shows you can fit twice as much ketchup in if you unfold it. He pours them into 2 different little ones, and then he pours both of them into the big one, and it all fits.
Oh, I'm watching him.
And that is socialism, baby. See, right now, our society, it's all folded up. Gotta keep it in that narrow. You gotta just stovepipe it up to the top. But if we unfold it, we can all get that dipping.
We can all get our dip
dip more things with broader shapes for broader
for broader people
broader
like
reach.
us. Yeah. God.
Not just the tip of the wing, my friends. The whole bird.
The whole goddamn bird's going in. That Bugsnax sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think. Calibrate your expectations. Like it's just one of. I don't. Think
Now it sounds less good, Patrick. We were
no,
in a good place with it.
No. The marketing has been like a little bit strange. Like it feels like a game. When you play it, it feels like it's been in development for a long time. And I mean that not like it's just. It's a strange game. I really, really like it. I was really surprised by how much I did like it, to the point that when I got to the end, there's like a very clear like, hey, this game's about to end. Like, go do your shit. And I was like, well, I'm looking at the time I have this week and the hour. Like, I actually like wrote down how I was going to spend each of my mornings and afternoons so I could hit all of my deadline targets, and I managed to do all that. But I did not have room for go do the last like 4 side quests in this game in order to do that. And so I said, well, sometimes that's the nature of reviewing, is you have to play these games a little bit differently, and I'll just go to the end game so that I can see the ending and start writing about it. Because it does, these days at least, like, a lot of games will caveat that with, but by the way, you can come back or whatever. Like, don't sweat it. Like you can see the ending and then work your way back. So when I got to the end credits and then I hit continue, I was delighted that it brought me back to like before. Cool. Like the end of the game.
So you can go do that stuff.
Yeah, you can go back and clean it up, because I really enjoyed all the little tangential storylines with the different characters. So it's right. But yeah, also it is I think kind of a through line of our next gen coverage has been, like you can get a lot of these games elsewhere, and like Tariq reviewed Miles for Polygon, and I remember seeing him talk about how he didn't have a PS5, and I was like, well, how did he review that game? He's like, he reviewed it on a base PS4. Right. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. It's beautiful.
There's going to be lots of load times, but who cares? Like,
there's these like quality of life things that are a huge part of the sort of like the next gen improvements. Like, does it suck to wait 45 seconds to like fast travel? But you can, and like you'll be fine. And like Bugsnax is just fine on I didn't play it on a PS4, but there's nothing to suggest it wouldn't be. And when this comes to Switch a year from now, after the exclusivity probably expires with Sony, you'd be just fine playing it on like wherever it shows up.
Yeah, this hits something that I think I haven't seen talked about, but is good. This shift towards, obviously we're in a launch window, which means there's going to be lots of these kind of crossover cross-gen games. But Microsoft has said that they're going to continue releasing some stuff on the Xbox One for a while.
I'm willing to start putting if there was a predict it.
Yeah, when do you think it is?
I might predict that maybe the Xbox One original launch like starts getting.
Yeah,
I don't know if Halo Infinite is coming out for that thing
within the next year or two, probably, or next 2 years.
Yeah, next holiday, I think you start seeing. I don't know if that Horizon game ends up coming out to the PS4,
to the base PS4, but I would like it to. I would like it.
I would too.
Because
release one that runs like shit,
right,
or doesn't run particularly well, but gives people the option to play it. I think that is
no ray tracing. Maybe it doesn't look as good, but can I still play it? Can I still?
Right.
How many people, like as kids, especially, like you don't have, or just people who like don't have a lot of disposable income. Again, I've said this a bunch of times, but like I only got a PS4 when I had to get one for work. Because I was going to review Battlefield Hardline. I could not afford a PS4 before that, and they sent me a PS4 copy of that game to review. I needed to go buy a PS4 to do that job, and basically not even make as much money as that would cover the PS4. But it's like, well, now I can do other types of games. That was 5 years ago for me. You know what I mean?
When I was at Giant Bomb before I got a PC, which I've told the story before, but like a fan sent that to me because they were tired of hearing me complain of not having a PC, so they built some spare parts from their college and sent it to me. But I get in kind of like not fights, but like with like everyone else on the staff played on PC, right? And it's especially with like Brad, where he'd be like, "How can you play Far Cry 3 and the Xbox 360? It runs like shit." I was like, "Cause I'm used to this. I'm used to it. And this like 24 frames a second
nice PC."
Yeah, I was like, I can't afford a PC.
Let me tell you,
I'm not buying one for like. Not having a PC isn't for my health.
Right.
But also, was largely a console person my whole life. I'm used to shitty frame rates. Like Shadows of the Empire and the N64 didn't run that great when it came out.
Can you evaluate the you're burning all of the wheat fields while Skrillex is playing? You're telling me I can't do that unless I'm on a PC? Like, no, motherfucker, I can weigh in on this on the Xbox 360 release. And that's most people do not have money for a new console right now. And so the fact that this kind of shift towards the iPhone model, the Android model, the rest of our consumer devices model makes a lot of sense for me and opens up things like I want Miles. I'm glad Miles came out and is playable on the base PS4. I'm glad that even though Halo is going to be worse, quote unquote, because it's going to have to run on an Xbox One.
I don't think its problems are rooted in the Xbox One based on what I saw.
The part that ends up being tougher is when the demands of putting something out that takes full advantage of these next-gen consoles means building something that then you have a lot of extra work dumped on you to try to get it to run on these old systems. That does have a cost, but for me, that's about scoping and scaling and being realistic about what you can do to hit that huge window and not pushing things so far that then you have people breaking their necks trying to get it to work on that launch console. But like opening that up for people who do not have money, whose parents do not have money to get a next-gen console is great for the hobby and for the form because it means more people can experience this stuff, can engage with game design, narrative, all the other stuff that is not really nice lighting. And I like really nice lighting, but that's an argument I'd like to see developed more than a 5-minute tirade I just went on, Anyway,
fair.
We should take a break. When you come back, we can talk about some other stuff. Does that sound good? Unless someone else wants to sneak something in this first half. All right, let's take a quick break. And we are back with a guest, Matthew Gault. You're joining us. We can't see your face anymore, though, because you turned off your camera.
Everything is just going straight.
It's fine. We were doing some tech troubleshooting there. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm ready to... I'm unclenched. I'm feeling good about the country, at least for the next 24 hours. We'll see how the rest of this week plays out. And there's some great video games happening.
Is one of the good ones? Is it Assassin's Creed Valhalla? How is that one? Or were you just speaking more generally than the segment we brought you on for?
No, I was segueing like a master. Are you kidding me?
Okay, yeah.
I unapologetically love Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's great. I think it's probably one of the best Assassin's Creeds. I was trying to
hold on. Let's back up.
Okay.
Rank for me. Go from Valhalla back. Where do you stand on the various Assassin's Creeds? I don't know. The last 10 years.
The last kind of like the last 10 years. So all of the Assassin's Creeds.
The first one was 2007, 2008. Yeah, 2007.
Yeah, we're outside of that window.
So we're almost out of that window.
I guess it's something like Black Flag on, like the last like they've really kind of like changed things in this like past generation, but like there's like a big difference between like Origins and Odyssey in terms of like tone and approach, and I'm just curious like where you fall on like those various ones,
and like the Syndicate and what was the French one?
Unity.
Yeah,
Unity.
Syndicate.
Unity.
Oh yeah,
I hear that one's. I hear the French one is actually surprisingly good now that it's been patched up, and it looks really good.
Syndicate was good too. I liked that one.
Syndicate was good too. I played Unity at release. I was very excited about it because it's the French Revolution one. This is period of history that I'm fascinated by, and I think that's one of the things that gets you into whatever your particular favorite Assassin's Creed is, right? Is how interested are you in this particular period of history?
Right, sure.
So I will need to go back and play Unity. I would put it low on my list. Okay. I know a lot of people love it now.
Syndicate, higher?
Syndicate is higher, but it's also Syndicate is the game where you can feel the wheels coming off. Like we've played this formula so much by that point that I can't.
The brother and sister were good. Like that's what got me through it. It was like I liked the main characters a lot.
A lot of people say 3 was the one where you felt the wheels coming off, though, right? Like that's the other one where people are like, that's. And
is that Brotherhood?
No, 3.
No, just 3. The one, the American Revolution one.
Oh,
well, the response to that was like, well, this was this was overambitious. This had too much. There's that whole opening act where you're not even playing as Connor. They'll get this back right.
Insufficient
this
votes.
is right.
I like 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've heard some people that one has its defenders who are like it's badly misunderstood.
You and Steven Totillo out here just banging the Assassin's Creed
Totillo's
3
weird.
drum.
Totillo can't like. Totillo's out there being like, y'all are sleeping on Rogue. You know, the one that feels like it was put together from leftover assets from Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 3.
Well, that's like
Her
his
best
franchise.
one.
Like everyone's got one, and like
Yes.
I know I should just stipulate that like everyone has like a franchise that like whatever you go to the map for, you love all of them because you just love the formula. And for Steven Totillo, Assassin's Creed is that one. So you end up getting someone who's being like,
I also have an AC, and it's Armored Core. And increasingly, Rob also has an AC, and it's Ace Combat. We all got an AC.
What if From Software made an Ace Combat?
What if they could do it? They could do it. Because Armored Core is already that's the same game. Pretzels is the same. It's just that one has mechs and one has planes, and those are the same in operation.
We don't need
anyway.
One of those
Choose
just
if
got
we-
legs.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is these Assassin's Creed games.
Yes. Sorry.
So no, it's totally okay. So there's this new era of Assassin's Creed games that starts with Origins, right, where they revamp the formula after Syndicate, and so you have a rethinking of what an Assassin's Creed game is. I liked Origins quite a bit. I liked Origins quite a bit mainly because I really loved the story of Bayek and Aya.
Yeah.
Because it's fundamentally a story, I think, about like grief and a divorce. It's like you are watching their relationship disintegrate as they pursue revenge across Egypt and then into Rome. I thought it was fun, but it had all the hallmarks of the stuff that I don't like about this particular iteration of the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is huge, aimless open world where there's all this stuff to do, but it doesn't really feel like there's any reason to go and do a lot of it. A lot of it's very skippable. One of the examples I can remember from Origins is there's all these statues of Ptolemy kind of around that you can smash. Why? Because they're fun to smash.
Because it marks it on a map, and it's
because it was a mark on a map. Odyssey, I liked Cassandra a lot. And I liked some of the systems they introduce, but again, it feels like this big directionless open world where like I don't know why I'm supposed to be going to these islands other than it's been marked on a map, and we have next to on the map it says like, hey, this is the area at level 100 to 130, this is where you're supposed to go.
right.
So Valhalla, like,
Which, by the way, holy shit, that's a huge level range.
Oh, it's just wait until you see Valhalla. It's like this is another, if you wanted it to be 200-hour game with level ranges that go up to, I think it's 280.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm loving it though.
That's good because I felt so. The reason I asked was because I really have liked a lot of the AC games. I played most of them, not a lot of the spin-off stuff. And Black Flag is like probably the one that I truly loved, like top to bottom, and wanted more of that good ship stuff that they got away from. But I played Origins and liked it. I liked the story of Bayek, but it was just so done with so much of the AC crust, maybe you could call it. And I skipped Odyssey because of that. It was just I can't do another one of these right after. I got to go. I need to play something else. So I'll skip this one, and then I'll see what happens with the next one. And then Rob and Austin and a lot of people I know really liked a lot of the Cassandra and a lot of stuff happening in Odyssey. And I was shit, I skipped the one I would like. And then Valhalla comes around, and I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of not a lot of buzz for this one. I was not sure what to expect, where it was going to land on the spectrum of Origins and Odyssey, and those being the last two big ones, and those being similar but pulling in different directions, especially in terms of player agency. So curious where you landed between those on Valhalla and which one it feels like it's pulling from.
It's interesting because in a lot of ways it feels like it is taking all the stuff I can't say that it's taking things and discarding others because it's taking everything. Yeah. All of the systems that they've been using in all of the Assassin's Creed games
is what
exactly.
What you're saying.
All that stuff is back. But what feels different this time is a more focus on player agency. It definitely feels like your Ivor is your version of this character, and you're able to customize them, and not only just customize them, but customize the experience they're going to have in this world, meaning that more than some of the other Assassin's Creed games, it feels very easy to just, I don't want to do any of this kind of mission, so I'm just not going to, and it's not really going to affect my time with the game or my gameplay.
Is that because there's just so many other things you can go do, or are you pointing at something else? I'm just trying to unpack that.
Yeah, it's because there's so much other stuff to do, and the game kind of allows you to pick and choose which of the content you want to do without it too much affecting the other gameplay paths. So the way that this kind of functionally works is you get to England, you start building a community.
Can we just pause really quick for people who don't have it? Here's what I know. You're a Viking. Yes. Game starts in Norway? ?
Yes. This is a game where I got the credits to roll for the title screen at 8 hours, by the way.
An 8-hour late title card? Whew.
Yes.
That's ambitious.
I'm excited now.
That's wild.
I'm trying.
So then you go to England as a Viking. Is there what's the premise other than you're a Viking? Is there more? You're an assassin ?
This is okay. So this is a game
stuff embargoed. I don't know what the embargo shit is. I don't know what the.
I think we're okay. We'll look at it afterwards, but I think the stuff I'm going to talk about, I'm pretty okay to discuss the events of. Yeah. So there's a lot. So yes, there are assassins. You are not one of them, but so you are Ivor, either a man or a woman, or both, and can switch at any time with no consequence. The game's default setting allows you to. It will oscillate between the two depending on like where you are in the game.
Is that is there a canonical reason for why it's doing that?
Yeah, it's tied into animus stuff.
So it's like so again, Assassin's Creed, you're playing a character in the future who's jacking into the Matrix, who's jacking into their own genetic history to time travel and see the events of the past. And is that, so what you're saying is sometimes those memories produce an Ivor who is a man, sometimes they produce an Ivor who's a woman. It is not the case that Ivor was genderqueer and was swapping between gender presentation. It's that the memories are inconsistent on gender.
The memories are inconsistent about the gender. Correct. Okay. And so it oscillates between the two as the default, or you can lock it in, or you can switch at any time.
What determines why would you, not canonically, structurally and kind of narratively, is there a reason why certain segments encourage you to play as femme Ivor versus mask Ivor?
Not that I can determine thus far. And again, this is about 40 hours in, but it is just a menu setting. You literally go into the menu and flip the switch, and that's it.
So we just have follow up on this because I'm so curious about it, especially because there's been so much conversation and like study in the last few years about the ways in which, hey, there were actually more women Viking warriors than historically were thought, because, we just assumed for a long time scholars saw bones with weapons and just and said, oh, this is a man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But additional records and things have come out to challenge that. Are there, if you were playing as a woman, is gender even in the narrative in any way, or are you kind of a blank slate? Are you kind of just like agender in terms of the structure and formal constraints of the game? Do you know what I mean? Outside of characters gendering you in speech.
Gender is like mechanically no, but gender is like a part of the narrative.
Okay.
And it is very like, I wouldn't apply our gender politics today to what's going on there. There's a lot of like, masculine posturing, but like women are also a part of that masculine posturing.
Sure.
There's a lot of female Vikings, female Danes, female leaders. So it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, I'm going to say this. I don't know. This goes to something this is a larger part of the conversation that I think that's about this game. It does definitely feel like Ubisoft is trying to get at something here that falls a little bit of flat because of things that are going on in the background at Ubisoft.
Right? Oh yeah, weird, huh?
Yeah,
we should talk about that at during this conversation as well. To be clear,
yes. But let But yeah, let me back up and
go ahead.
Do the setup. So you are Ivor. You are a Viking in Norway. You're part of a smaller clan. Your brother comes back after being in the East raiding for years and years, and he comes back and he's got these two guys with him that are assassins. They look exactly like what you would think of it as members of the Ancient Order. And they say, "Hey, I brought these guys with me. Turns out one of our clan's ancestral enemies is part of the Templar Order, right? And we have to take care of that." So almost immediately, or very early in the game, they pull you aside and they're like, "Hey, we have a gift for you. Here's the hidden blade." And Ivor takes it and puts it on the top of their arm. And it's like, "Well, you're supposed to wear it on the underside and like cut off your finger." And they're like, "No, I'm not making the same mistake you did. That's dumb. Why would I do that? That's stupid." So immediately there's this like break. And Eivor is avowedly not part of the Assassin Order. Yes, they can take missions from these people and like go and hunt down members of the Templar Order if you want to. Again, you can kind of just not do any of that. But their story is very much about fleeing Norway for political reasons, establishing their own colony with their brother in England, and spreading the Raven Clan, as they call it, and like making alliances with different leaders and what they literally call pacifying England. Making it, that's the word that they use.
Yeah, listen, it's probably the word that's appropriate. That is what is happening here, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. So the bulk of the game, story-wise, is you Eivor interacting with these different kings and other leaders of England, and having leadership struggles on the home front with her brother. And of course, the assassin and the Templar stuff is also on top of that, and there's other things going on. But
sure.
That's the setup.
The home front being the territory they've grabbed in England,
right.
Or back in
yes. Yeah, you come in and you establish, you find an old Danish colony where people had been run off. You come in, you kind of take that over and start to expand. And so mechanically, the way this works is you get supplies by going on raids. You take the supplies home, and then you build the different buildings, and the different buildings you build give you access to different sets of activities. So if you want to unlock the fishing minigame and like all the fishing quests, you build the fishing hut. If you want to unlock like the mythic, I don't know if anybody played the DLC for like the Origins or Odyssey.
They both have like some mythology, here's the Minotaur, here's the Medusa or whatever, right? Yeah.
So if you want to interact with any of that stuff, it's like you build the Seer's Hut, and she will take you on like the mythic journey through Valhalla and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
And the only activity that you're like locked into is raiding, which is the only way to get resources to build up your settlement.
Okay.
You have to go down a river in a longboat, find a monastery, burn down churches, and steal their stuff, which is satisfying. Yeah, you got to do Viking stuff, which is satisfying. When Eivor, I've got this in my heart because I grew up in the South, in communities where Christians were very unkind and oppressive. But when Eivor runs up a hill and says like burn down Christ's houses and steal his gold, and they start lighting thatch roofs on fire and monks are running back and forth, it's fun. It's fun. I know that's violent and awful.
Say?
Fuck those guys.
But I like it. Yeah, it's good. Sorry about it.
So you do that. You're forced to do that to get what you need to move on.
Forced.
And,
it sounds like Gault was really forced to do it.
No,
really walking the plank.
This game. No, I love this. Is totally optional. We're all gonna say. So you're building up this base and then at this point, is it just those past two games in terms of huge amounts of stuff to do across the open world, a main quest, a bunch of side quests? I always got the impression. Go ahead.
It is very much all of those old systems from Odyssey and Origins, but it's just different enough that it makes things feel fresh.
Okay.
Well, one thing you brought up in your review is that one of the things that's really exhausted these games is that as big as the worlds are, there's no mystery to them because you just climb up the fucking tower and everything you're going to do is laid out there on the map and you know what it is. Like, you look at the icon, you might not know exactly what that mission is going to be, but like, you know what it is.
Yeah.
It sounds like with this one, they've really tried to create the sense that the world is big, not just in terms of like square acreage, like not just in terms of acreage, but in terms of like possibility, like the like its mysteriousness, its discoverability seems like a focus of this game.
Yes, and so I think that's one of the big parts that's been driving me and making it more fun for me than say like Watch Dogs Legions was. Yeah, that's what's making it more fun for me than something like Watch Dog Legion was, where you unlock the portion of the map and you just know where everything is. Right, you've just got all your little stuff to go check off the box. With this, I know that there's the peak that I climb because it's an Assassin's Creed game. I get up to the top and I unlock a portion of the map. Right. But I don't know. It's just all these points of light. And you know by the color of the point of light kind of what's going to be at the end of at that point on the map, but not specifically until you get much closer. So it's going to be gold, which is going to be some kind of item that could be used for upgrades. It could be a new piece of armor. You won't know until you get closer to it. It'll be blue, and blue are activities. That could be a side quest. It could be a group of like a crop of mushrooms on the ground that you take and like have a hallucinogenic experience. Again, you won't know until you get closer. Or it could be a white dot, which are like tattoos, collectibles, scrolls. And so if you're just like, I don't want to go visit any of those white dots, that's fine. And also, climbing to those towers and hitting all those points does not reveal everything that's on the map. Okay. There's still hidden spots that you will have to go to and explore yourself in order to uncover.
It's more just
everything.
like, here's a reason to start exploring over here, but then we're still going to find ways to hopefully distract you. On your way.
Yeah, as you're on your path. And the way the side missions work, they're very, very quick, which felt nice. So like an example is I was on my way to a quest mission and I ran into a little boy in the street who was looking for his lost cat. And so I helped him find his cat and I pet the cat. And then the little boy is like, he runs from everyone else, but he came to you. You should take the cat and put it on your boat. It was like a couple minutes. It was done. That was it. That was over. And now I've got
a cat.
I've got a cat on my boat.
You took a child's cat.
Yeah, that child. You can't do that. That child isn't of
I'm sorry.
age.
Was the child Christian?
Yes, of course.
Sorry. Okay, cool.
It's
more pillaging.
And worse, they were Saxon. So,
okay.
No good. It's no good. But yeah, something about the side missions being over that quickly and feeling that like you won't run into a side mission and then it get put on a list and then like, all right, I know I got to click this list. It'll tell me exactly where to go on the map to finish the mission. It doesn't do that for these anymore. You just kind of have a conversation with someone. I could have just walked away from that kid and just completely unfulfilled that. And it wouldn't have put anything in a quest log.
Counter argument. What if you really have to go do something else? You're like, I really want to help this kid. Is there a way to leave a mark on your own map to be like, I can come back and help that kid?
The mystery icon will still be there on the map.
Gotcha.
If you want to go back and help that kid. Yeah.
Okay. Are you, at the end of that, you said no to that cat? Are you making choices? Because one of the things I was going to raise earlier was this series, since Origins, has felt increasingly like they're trying to get a piece of that Witcher pie. And
this
I'm curious, and in some ways building towards this tonally, aesthetically, in terms of setting,
This is 100% them trying to go in that direction. So for that mission specifically, no. I think once that cat is my cat now. I actually don't remember if it gave me the option to just say no, you keep the cat. But I'm pretty sure I just took. I'm pretty sure I was locked in.
It never crossed Galt's mind.
No,
could you instead simply say that cat is my cat now, and then take the cat without the kid offering it, perhaps?
No, but there are in many of the story missions. I did see that level of like distinction and choice about how I handled situations. One of the early ones that I can talk about that I thought was very interesting, especially talking to colleagues who had also played the game, was there is a Jarl. You are trying to get her to join your side, and she's got a problem. She knows that one of her 3 lieutenants is a traitor. She doesn't know who. And so the game tasks you with figuring out who this traitor was. And it just said, it kind of vaguely says, like, look for evidence in this place. It does not put the evidence on the map or make explicit, like, where it is. So you just kind of have to actually think about it. And, like, in the way I figured it out was, one of the first missions we had was I was trying to track down all of her lieutenants after a battle. So I tracked down all the lieutenants after a battle. And I knew where their locations were after the battle had finished. And so when I was looking for evidence, I went back to those places where they were and was able to kind of backtrack and see how they'd gotten there. Mm-hmm. And all of that stuff was like things that I'd logically came up with myself, were not things the game was explicitly like telling me to do.
Now go check for footprints. Now go look for the long ship. Find the smoke on the horizon. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like, all right, so I found this long ship that's painted in this way and has this poem set inside of it, and I know that it's next to the area where this specific guy was when we found him. So he's the traitor.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And at any point during that mission, like as soon as it allowed, like cut me loose to go look for evidence, I could have declared who I thought the traitor was at any time and been wrong.
Right.
And like a colleague who I was talking to was wrong. But again, the game continued on, and like that alliance is shaky and that person is down soldiers.
Huh.
Whereas I got the right person, cause I took maybe a little bit too long because I was obsessively searching the areas because I really wanted to know for certain, before I made the call, because the game did a pretty good job of throwing a lot of circumstantial evidence in, like making it all sound very, very hazy. But on top of that, also, that's not just, there's those kinds of choices, but there's also like there's all these undercurrents kind of running underneath the game, like pagan versus Christian, the different kinds of leader a person can be, and there's it lets Eivor express different variations of that, right? So one of the side missions I found was there's a woman crying outside of a shaman's hut. So my husband's very sick. He's the farmer of this land. I need blood magic to fix him. If I track the shaman down, she's in the fields, like in the process of ritually committing suicide. She's like, these fields are fallow. I have to use my blood to bring the fields back. And so I was faced with the choice of either like telling the shaman, like, no, you've got to go help this sick farmer, or leaning into the pagan side of things and helping her finish the blood sacrifice, which I did because I'm going full pagan.
Uh-huh. I couldn't tell.
Yeah, sorry. And because of that, like the farmer died, but the fields came back. And throughout the main story of the game, there are all of these little places where you're able to kind of express like Eivor, your version of Eivor having a distinct personality, in seeing how she reacts to like leadership challenges. There are moments that are very Fable-esque where you like sit on a throne and like make choices
now
between.
We're fucking talking.
Uh-huh.
Make choices
Which Fable
between,
we talking
yeah.
though? There's a Fable's a spectrum.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about the good one, Fable 3.
Wow,
that's a joke. Wow. That's a joke. Parody, satire.
Wow.
Fable 3's got some cool ideas though.
Yeah,
Fable 3 has some cool ideas. But that, that thing where you like sit on the throne and you cast judgment between these two groups.
Yeah.
I do.
You adjudicate. There are moments where you adjudicate between disputes in your community. And all of this stuff all feels like it feeds back into building that community up and your own expression of who Eivor is. And that's one of the things I think was really missing from like Odyssey and Origins. There's like all this content that felt very disconnected from the main narrative to me.
Yeah, like why is Bayek helping these people? I mean, I know he seems like a nice dude. Like I get it, but like it was on the map. You went there and then you just got wrapped up in a quest, and which is again, that's how a lot of these games go. But especially when you had like a really strong character that you liked, it made the disconnect like feel even weirder, where he's just like, come on, just give me like a little bit of bullshit to explain why I would be doing this, and I could buy it better.
Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, it just all feels like it hangs together very well in this one in a way that it didn't in those other two games. And I think it's because you've got a character that is part of a greater story, is kind of disconnected from the overall plot of the Assassins versus the Templars, and is very much has their own goals, and is telling a story. Also, this is also an interesting part of it to me, is because the historical record for this era of time is so, I don't know if patchy is the wrong word, but like incomplete and kind of mixed in with legend and myth. It doesn't feel as tied down to history. Like there are historical figures here, definitely, that we're playing with. But this game leans into the mythic aspects of the Assassin's Creed more.
They seem like they've been allowing themselves. I didn't play, like any of the DLC for, Origins or Odyssey, even after I finished Origins, but it seems like they've been increasingly trying to find ways to be like, man, just like, I want to put a giant snake in this game, and like, there are kind of aliens in this universe already, like, just let I don't know what the justifications are. Like, don't you visit Atlantis in like one of the DLCs? And I'm like, that's cool. I would much rather play the game where they just find ways to which is why I've always been like, at some point, just get away from, like, who gives a shit? Like, do whatever you want, like, do what's cool. And it does seem like they've tried to, like, slowly over the course of each of these sequels to, like, find ways to let them just go wild and, like, just do more interesting things that are maybe not, like, as grounded, but are just cooler, and who cares?
Yeah, and Valhalla definitely feels that way. There's a lot of stuff that's completely not grounded, but feels really cool. Like, lots of there's legendary beasts, there's the whole Valhalla subplot is absolutely wild.
Okay.
And very, very, very mythic. And yeah, it's good. I don't know what to say. It's a good ass Assassin's Creed.
Sounds like a lot of games in one, really, in terms of just the experiences and like.
That's right, because you haven't played Odyssey, Patrick, so you didn't interact with like the Assassin's map thing at all, right?
No, I just know that the thing I remembered most from watching the footage that Rob, I was like, that combat spooked me. I was like, oh no, it didn't look good, and I couldn't tell if Rob was bad or the combat was bad. I mean, Rob was playing over a stream.
Like, fuck, dude.
You said this yourself. You were like, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but like, you played these games for a long ass time, and that combat did not, I can play DMC5 on like my PS5. Like, I have a lot of like really good action games to play right now. Like, there's a lot of good action, and that's always been the problem with that series in general. Has been like the combat's like, and it's gotten better as it's gone along. I was just curious where you fell on this one. It's like, you're gonna do a lot of fighting. And it's like, am I better off being stealth because then I don't have to get in a skirmish? Or did you enjoy the actual hitting?
Because you are a Viking, you can use stealth to mitigate a lot of things. But you are, at the end of the day, you're going to get into fights, and you're going to get into boss fights.
Okay.
This is a game that has like specialized enemy types that you're going to have to learn the mechanics of and learn how to navigate and move around and deal with, and also boss fights. And it is better. It is the best the combat has ever been in the series, I think. But it does still feel, you can't help but compare
we're starting at a low bar, and then we're just going up a little bit of a rung.
Yes. Well, that is how it feels. The combat does feel that way. It's still like, I hate to compare it to something like Sekiro because it's just not in the same ballpark at all, right? Just not in the same ballpark at all.
How does it feel to like Ghost of Tsushima, which is the other samurai game, and also like the other big open world AC style game of this year?
Yeah, and it's so funny because I fell so hard off of that game, and I love this one so much.
That game had great combat, though. Like, I revisited Ghost for reviewing the PS5, and other than it taking like 20 minutes to remember like how buttons work, like once I got back into it, I was like, damn. Like, I had a lot of problems with this game, and there's a reason I fell off it after the first island when like you two kept playing and was like, no, you're good. You can kind of just, you got your fill. But that's always the problem with these games in general, is just like where they excel in one area and don't excel in another. And it's like, I wanted a better open world in Ghost's excellent combat, and it sounds
Yeah.
like AC maybe has a better world and a better story, but like kind of combat, which I'm not shocked by, but you know,
the combat is better than Odyssey. It's not as good as Ghost. It still feels like loose.
Yeah,
You know,
I had a
like
question. One thing, like, do the weapons feel meaningfully different? Because this has been a problem for me, where it's like, it feels like, okay, there's two-handed weapons and one-handed weapons, but like beyond that, everything feels pretty samey in Assassin's Creed games, where it's like, if I'm carrying a spear, it's real similar to like a big-ass axe, like in terms of just the way I'm approaching combat.
yes, I think the weapons they've done a much better job of making the weapons and your different builds into weapons feel meaningfully different here, especially because a lot of there's like 23 different sub-enemy types, and they're all pretty wildly different. So you've got, several different kinds of archers that will sit back and attack at you. You've got a guy that throws fire bombs. You've got a giant that'll rush into the field and pick you up and throw you around.
That's right.
And so if you've got certain characters at like spear point, they're much easier to deal with. Then, what I've been rolling with mostly is an axe. I'm dual wielding an axe and a knife. And so the axe does meaty damage, and then I can get in behind with the knife and do a lot of quick damage into the everyone has a stagger bar. So you can work that stagger bar down. Yeah. And then initiate.
And then you get like a big super hit in, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's better than it's felt in previous games, but it's still not up to the level of a better like Ghost or one of these other games where you have similar systems and they feel tighter and better.
Mm-hmm. Is that the kind of gist of it then more broadly? Is that like
this is a game of small iteration? This is a game of small improvements, small iterations that kind of come together to make the whole thing feel fresh and new. It's still an Assassin's Creed game though, but it does just enough and improves just enough to make me like really like it. And Eivor and the story they're telling, I think, are more interesting than some of the stories they've recently told.
Do you think this is a game that would be a lot more excited about if Ubisoft hadn't had such a colossally it's hard I don't think there's any game Ubisoft could release right now where it'd be like, fuck yeah, let's celebrate the shit out of this, because it is so clear there's a culture of rot and entitlement and nepotism and covering your buddy's ass. In a different context, would we be saying like, fuck, Assassin's Creed really found a gear here that we haven't seen before, but instead it's all kind of ashen?
Yes, 100%, because it does feel like all the systems that they've been playing with have been building to this moment. And Austin, like you said, they've been working towards this Witcher thing, aesthetically and gameplay wise. And they've hit it in this, and it feels really good. But you're constantly assaulted with this story that is a good story that repeatedly asks you, what makes a great king? What does leadership look like? How do you lead, and what does that mean?
How do you redress wrongs?
How do you redress wrongs? And all I can think about in the back of my head is everything that's been going on at Ubisoft all year, and for
Somebody
decades.
Got choked at a party, and people were like, "You didn't see shit."
Yeah, and I can't imagine the disconnect of choking someone out at a party and then going and working on this Assassin's Creed game that is about what it means to be a wise and just ruler. It's just so awful. It's so awful, and that makes it sour in a way, because you can't avoid that question when you're playing this game.
Well, again, we're talking literally about not the choke. I don't believe it was the choking, but the creative director of this game was fired, right?
Yes. Well, he stepped down.
Oh, did he step down? Okay.
He stepped down when his extramarital affair became public, I believe is
so
what
the
happened.
quote I see here that they gave to Polygon was, as a result of investigations,
he stepped away, then he did an investigation, and then
he
as a
has
result
been
of that
dismissed.
investigation, it was sort of like,
gotcha.
The word they
There's
use
the
is
door.
dismissed officially, dismissed from Ubisoft. So, and is no longer an employee. That's fired. That means they investigated something and found something and fired him. After they should have, well after any sort of complaint should have been dealt with to begin with.
Yeah,
it
and
turns
this is
whole
the
game
person.
in the world's longest. The Cossacks work for the Tsar joke in some ways, right? Where it's like,
Yeah, absolutely.
if only a good king could find out about all these miscreants.
Mm-hmm.
And you're good. The creative lead, the person who was the director, the person in charge of this game, the boss, the person where the buck stops, got canned, right? Like months ahead of its release, right? The moment that he's not going to be doing a victory lap because he's a bad dude.
Yeah,
right. And we should emphasize, the thing that I want to emphasize here is, this is not a matter of a few bad apples. Like,
no,
we said all this. Like, this is the thing that's so fucking frustrating. 2 weeks ago, you and I sat on a podcast and we said 20% of folks at Ubisoft have reported instances of either sexual misconduct or situations that made them feel uncomfortable because of sex, gender, race, sexuality, etc. Bullying, bad work environments more generally. This is a structural problem that is producing and allowing folks like Ismail to continue to thrive in this environment. Partially because it's so corrupt at the top. It was not only project creative director is already very, very high up, but it's also been people like Serge Hassoet. Is that how you pronounce that last name?
Yeah.
Who is like one of was one of the highest ranking folks at Ubisoft, who was close to the Guillemots, who run the whole joint. We know from reporting that there is like a miserable and overbearing editorial board who sweeps in again and again in projects to weigh in ways that negatively affect team morale and the projects themselves. And we've heard so many stories at this point that indicate that it is not just replace these 3 people and we're good. It's get and I'm sure there are people that are working on this, to be clear, at this point, I hope. Because I know that the people who are living and working under these conditions want those conditions to be better and believe that those people are taking steps. But it's hard when you know that this stuff is not just we hired 1 or 2 bad people. It's we have a structure that enables those people that does not protect people consistently from their misdeeds. And that I think is so much worse than it could be in some ways. Anyway.
Yeah, they fired the head of HR. Right.
Which let's be clear, we've been there. This is part of the thing.
That exact place.
We've been in that exact place where the thing to do is not get rid of the people who have allegations. It's not just that. You investigate those allegations, you get those people away, you keep people safe from the folks but then you have to address the fact that there are people there to make the company safe, not to make the people in the company safe, which that's companies, baby. It fucking sucks.
HR cleanups always feel like the most I'm shocked type move as well, because usually that, like, it is the classic, the prince executing the henchman who did all the dirty and being like, well, I wouldn't have. If I'd known, I would have done something. But this guy who was, acting in my name just completely.
This person who I hired to ensure I never got in trouble.
Right. This weird. The HR turned into this complete like black hole of
how did these gloves get so dirty?
Yeah.
Right? Like.
And what's the first thing you see anytime you boot up any Assassin's Creed game?
Diverse team.
A diverse team of many different creeds, different viewpoints. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And so every time I boot up this game and I see that, I instantly think about all that shit. That's like the first thing I think about. As much as I'm enjoying this game, that is constantly on my mind.
Diverse team overseen by a toxic frat boy.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. But if we wave, and like so much other corporate culture, if we wave things away, if we put the right label on stuff, then we can do whatever we want behind closed doors.
Yeah. Well, there's Assassin's Creed for you. It's hard to know. It's hard to know still for me how to deal with this. Like, I think it's probably worth me saying that out loud, because when you think of the size of these teams, it's so easy to either be the person who is like, actually what I'm saying is it's not easy. I find myself pulled in these directions. I don't want to give this company money right now until I believe that it's a clean house or an improved house. I also know that there are hundreds of people working on these games who the reason I'm upset is because of the ways in which they have been harassed and abused at their workplace, where I want them to be able to do their fucking jobs. I have a taste for big budget open world games. It's a genre I really like, despite the fact that, like, when I look at my top 10 list right now, none of those are on this top 10 list this year, and it's a bunch of little baby darlings. There is a junk food quality to big games like this that I really enjoy, especially when I'm like down and out. I finished Watch Dogs Legion and was like, fuck, I wish there was more Watch Dogs Legion to play after giving it a fairly critical review. So I have various interests here that compete, and I as much as I want to be able to say, like, no, we should boycott, blah, 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 because it feels good to say that. One, I don't know what the outcome of that actually looks like. And two, I know that most people listening who are already planning to buy that game are just not going to do that. And also because we know that the notion of, like, consumers voting with their wallet is like a sort of produced tool of neoliberalism that encourages you to believe that you can. It doesn't change outcomes.
It's
exactly.
designed
What it can do is it can be a choice you should make because of your own moral.
Yeah, like I
right?
know recycling doesn't do shit for the, like, climate change, but, like, still makes me feel good. Like, there's a world where you can, like, say, yeah, just not right now,
and you can say, fuck it, I don't want to give these people money because I don't want to, not because of an outcome
Right.
change, just because I don't feel good about it. Absolutely, right? So that's kind of where I'm in my mind. I don't know how y'all feel about it though.
No, I mean, when we were sort of working on the conclusion to that piece, like, there was this part of me that was like, I am so sick of having the ultimate, like, moral outcome be dependent on, like, I am tired of the ethical questions of products like this devolving upon individuals who have a buy or don't buy, very infinitesimally small purchase decision. And that has to become a factor in their calculation about whether they get to play a fucking video game on a Friday night. Like, that is, to me, absurd. And not the drawing the personal line, but the sense that somehow it should come down to all of these consumers hitting a critical mass and being like, you know what? No more. We are going to get educated on the internal production processes of these studios that are notoriously opaque. And then we're going to make the decision whether or not these things cross our moral lines. And then we're going to act in concert to force that company to be good, even though there's nothing to stop the company from doing it. It's like All-Star Superman. You know, you could have saved the world anytime, Lex. You just didn't want to. Like, that's what pisses me off so much, is that that somehow it's the end user who has to click this, like, moral EULA and say, like, you know what? I'm cool with that. Bury those HR complaints. That's not what people are saying, but it's, I think, kind of what it's set up to try to implicate us in.
Right. You've replaced systemic thinking, systemic outcomes with individual action, and that just doesn't map cleanly, right? I confront this a lot because I think it is sometimes, if you listen to this podcast, easy to misunderstand, or if you're in these spaces, I should say more broadly, if you're in game critic circles, if you're talking to people about games the way a lot of us talk about games, it is easy to overestimate how many of us there are and how much this is the norm. We could all boycott this game. Ubisoft wouldn't fucking feel it for a second. The biggest, I'd say, whatever, like, the biggest video game podcasts in the world are 400, 500,000 listeners. Maybe more than that if you take listener really broadly to think about, like, people who listen once or twice a year or who listen maybe once a month. You'll say a million. These games sell millions and millions of copies over their lifetimes. Would it be felt if a million people did it? Yes. Could you get 100,000 people to sign a petition to say they wouldn't buy it? That would be a huge success of a boycott if you could get 100,000 people to say they weren't going to buy a product like this.
Oh, I think you get 100,000 people to sign a change.org. But I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Like,
but would they go forward with it? Probably not. And if they did, would it help the people on the ground floor? I don't fucking think so, because the bottom line would not be, hey, we got to really change these practices. I don't know. I guess what I would say is, if there was a worker-led demand that was like, you know what, don't buy this shit, we're the people who are going to organize this. Yeah. Will you get behind us? I would absolutely do it in a second. Do you know what I mean?
This is what I was gonna say, in a world where like Metacritic can dictate bonuses for people and like success is based on, you know, amount of things sold and not necessarily any sort of critical acceptance, it could end up, when it's not worker led, hurting people by being like, oh, you were on that thing that tanked. We don't want to hire you, right? Like it's a fucking mess if it's not also, right.
But then there's the other half of my brain that is like, and all we're doing is rationalizing, go spend your $60 on this game. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't, because that's a fair criticism of this line of thinking, because you end up falling into the like, no ethical consumption under capitalism is your go ahead to do whatever you want. And I don't think it's that so much as I think that this is one of those moments where you can talk about morality in a way that isn't utilitarian, and you can talk about morality not as a thing that you subscribe to only in relation to effect, but also in relation to or to broaden the idea of effect out, right? To being about like, hey, what does this purchase do to me? How does opening up the possibility that I'm going to support whatever because I know that my personal choice does not necessarily impact something.
Right.
How does that begin to shape me and my other behaviors across other sorts of things? Does it make it so that it's easier for me to put the blinders on in cases where my impact is noticeable and I can, collaborate with other people to have collective outcomes? And I think that like anytime that you're taking those additional steps to be very honest with yourself about that stuff, because again, we all have those blinders. One of the things that's important to remember here is this is a story we know because it came out. I don't remember what game it was we were talking about a few weeks ago. There was another really big Genshin, right? Genshin Impact, a game I'm really enjoying. And we talked a lot about the ways in which the monetization on that thing is fucked up, and the ways in which that it preys on people's, with gambling addictions and people with poor impulse control, blah, blah, blah. We have no idea how that game was made. It's a black box in terms of how the developers are treated. That company could have the same problems Ubisoft does. We would not know about it. Square Enix, Final Fantasy VII Remake was one of my favorite games this year. I can't tell you what the fucking company culture is at Square Enix. I bet my guess, probably not great. But that's a guess. And so there are ways in which what I want to be careful about doing for myself is falling into the gap of thinking, well, this is the one bad one, so therefore I should feel good about those other purchasing decisions. And it's a lot to try to juggle, and it becomes even more to juggle once you subscribe to the idea that everything you do as a consumer ends up being a potential moral good, when in fact that is probably not the fucking case. There is not a way for me to make moral. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, and does that exhaust your capacity to put your effort toward addressing like broader systemic? Because and certainly I think in politics that is true, right? Like you are way better off trying to, like, to Patrick's recycling question. Your effort would be better spent like trying to organize or lobby changes in like regulations around packaging than it would be spent like painstakingly
making sure this Miller Lite goes into the
right.
Yeah, and I think to a degree that's the boat.
But you got to do that other part. You can't be like, well, I really wish I could. I
just want to put it all into this one black chute and just not worry about it anymore.
Yeah. Right. If you're going to do that, and then also you're like, well, the reason I'm doing this is because it really gets systemic change. I would have to start lobbying for the plastic
saving
industry.
My energy, fam.
I'm saving it up. I'm gonna cast this in.
You know what I don't like? Garbage bags anymore. I just look at this one garbage can as just, I put that in the house.
Just charging up
everything in there, and then we push it out to the front.
We push it out to the door, and that's it. And eventually, all those hours and minutes I saved up, I'm gonna get on the phone. I'm gonna talk to my congressperson. We're gonna make change happen. I'll do it at the same time.
You know what I need Congress to fix? I got a problem. So when we bought this house,
here we go.
They didn't give you a garbage can, and I bought a garbage can. And then in the last 4 years, they said, you know what? We're giving y'all garbage cans. So now on the side of my house, I have a garbage can. And how do I get rid of a garbage can?
Jam it in another garbage can.
I also
fucking Matryoshka the garbage cans. Yeah.
Do I have to put a sign on it to the garbage people and be like, this garbage can
is garbage.
Is garbage.
Well, of course it's garbage.
Yeah.
Hey, what's this guy all about? He thinks we don't know there's garbage in there? This is garbage? Yeah, no shit, bro.
See? How do I'm gonna have to come out there with like a flow chart.
Players these days have strange names. Have it.
I've got, when I moved in here, we had 2 garbage cans. Don't know why. But this is just your life now, Patrick.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
gonna
got
be there. When I sell the house, part of the perks is gonna be an extra garbage can that's been here since the dawn of time.
Oh, yeah. God. All right. I think that's it for us on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Any other final thoughts or questions here about this thing? Seems like everyone's got their curiosity satisfied. How do you know when you're satisfied with a game that's going to last you 200 hours?
Right.
God. All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Matt. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having
this
me.
deep dive. Your review is up on the site, waypoint.vice.com. It is called... I'm looking at the Bugsnax one. That's not the right one. Valhalla asks what makes a good king and a great Assassin's Creed. For that note, Patrick's review, Bugsnax is more than catching weird bugs. It's a story of community is also up, along with all the rest of our next-gen launch coverage, which has gone up over the last week, including reviews of Astro's Playroom, Spider-Man's Miles Morales. The PS5 is a newer, better PlayStation with some fun flourishes. And, of course, Rob's Xbox consoles are built to eliminate every other one of gaming's hassles. Your review of the Xbox series of consoles. The Xbox series of consoles? Is that what we're calling
They
this?
gave me these 2 Xboxes, and I'm trying to get somebody to take one away. Yeah. And how do I say this is above an Xbox series? Yeah. It's I don't know what you call the new Xbox to a degree, because like at this point you have to say just Series X or Series S, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
This also speaks to another one of my
Xbox
questions. Is what does the secondhand market look like for these systems? Can you just wipe them and then give them to a store? Like, how does that all shake out?
You must be able to, right?
Yeah,
I would think so. You just wipe them and sign in a new user, probably.
That makes sense.
Just put it into one of those garbage cans.
Now we're fucking talking.
Yeah, just push it on down the line.
This garbage can is garbage, but this Xbox in this garbage can, not garbage. You can figure out what to do.
You
with
take that as the payment for dealing with this extra garbage can. We'll be back later this week to talk about some additional stuff. I know, Cado, you and I have both touched the new Umurangi Generation DLC.
Yeah.
I want to give that some time. Why are you holding up? What is this?
This is the Godfall. They said this was the Godfall official trailer music. This was not what I was expecting to come out of it, though.
It's a looter slasher, so of course that's what.
I was trying to prep us for a Godfall.
That's later this week. Godfall, yeah. Our Godfall correspondent.
Cado's gonna have a Godfall minute.
Yeah, what's up with Godfall this week? By the way, Cado, can you give me what's the latest on Godfall?
You attack with a sword.
Have you figured out which?
Have you played Godfall, Cado?
No, I don't have.
That's a problem, Cado. You had one job.
There's loot out there, Cado.
God damn it!
And it's waiting to be slashed up.
Which is to redeem the Godfall code that you don't have yet.
Send me your PS5, then I can play Godfall.
I thought we had other codes.
I don't have his PC code yet. I should have it.
Well,
are there classes?
I just wanted him to get ready.
Are there classes in Godfall? What are you maining in Godfall?
I can't say. I could talk to me on Thursday.
You know what you should do? You should start theory crafting your Godfall character right now.
Yeah.
Sounds
good.
Maybe like prepare a deck for us to present what you're thinking for your builds.
Yeah.
And we can just get you really
and your coverage plans.
Game Pass just got Disney Plus.
Wait, what?
What?
You get a month.
A month?
Oh,
okay.
Pump the brakes.
Okay.
Pump the brakes.
I just paid for that
That's
piece of
fine.
shit. God damn it.
Yeah, new Mando comes out. They
I
wait
paid
a
for
couple
3 years of
episodes.
it.
What?
What?
Yeah, before Disney
Disney
Plus
Plus?
launched, you could basically pay half off if you just paid 3 years up front. And because of the kids' movies, I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Sure,
You're in that one bucket where I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I watched Cars.
I mean,
weekend.
You watched Cars this weekend?
Okay.
Look, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for racing movies over at Shift F1.
I see.
And
all right,
so-
that makes more sense.
Yeah, now it's adding
up.
Yeah, but isn't Cars just Doc Hollywood?
Yes,
really a racing
fucking
movie.
yes. I didn't think anybody else would know
my
that reference.
God.
I was like, this is Doc Hollywood. And MK was like, what? And I was like, you have not seen Michael J. Fox's best film role? The only unequivocally solid movie he's in? except for Back to the Future, but like that's
I was
Marty
about to
McFly feels
say.
like
I thought we were
me.
veering towards a much weirder take from Rob.
no, like his whole like as he's trying to put like Alex P. Keaton and Marty McFly in the rear view and try to become like
Fucking Alex P. Keaton. Oh my god,
great character.
We got to return to Alex P. Keaton and see how he's dealing with Trumpism.
Is he yet? As the creator of Family Ties said whether Alex P. Keaton ever got out of jail?
Yeah, I'm sure he's working on the Lincoln Project now.
Yeah,
that's true.
Alex P. Keaton, 100% a Lincoln Project guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, we're gonna move on to the end of this podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back with Godfall, Umurangi. What else? Is there any other big thing this week that we have to
Fucking
look
Destiny.
forward to? What's that? Is that like Godfall?
That's not. Is that is that an expansion? To Godfall?
It's like Godfall except
later this week.
Instead of a Sloosher, it's a fuck. I forgot. God.
See? Yeah, Sloosher took over. There's nothing else. There's only
I don't know what
Slooshing.
else it is. Only
The future is
Slooshing.
Slooshing.
Only Slooshing.
Politics is just slooshing
Just
now.
Slooshing now. What Valor plate are you going to use in the new Destiny? Does that have Valor plates like Godfall does?
Look, hey,
no.
This might be under
There's
embargo. I don't know. We can't tell all the Valor
aspects.
plates yet.
Is that like Valor plates? What the fuck is a Valor plate?
Yeah,
You're gonna find
Is that,
out.
is that a thing from Pokemon? Is that what you put into Arceus? You put Valor plates inside
I'm gonna hang. I don't have a Destiny
Genesect?
2 code for Cado yet,
Oh
but
my
when I do,
God.
it'll be.
It's tomorrow.
You can get this.
Where is it?
You can, well, it was
out yet, is it?
Xbox. It was Xbox codes that Rob and I got, and none for you.
Damn.
So
What you don't know is that Randy Pitchford is a sadist, and he just enjoys torturing you, Cado.
I knew that. I don't know. These Valor plates look cool to me. 12 legendary armor sets called Valor plates. These look. That one's a wolf. That one's like
Wolves
a
are
phoenix.
cool.
it's got some cool designs. I don't think it breaks them. I'm sure that I could say the
Silvermane.
things
I like
I've
a
seen in the
silent-
game have been in a trailer. It's got some cool designs.
I think it has
just
been very
Hinterclaw.
funny to see. It is not just us who are working ourselves into a shoot, to use some wrestling terminology, on Godfall. As it gets closer, people are like, yeah, I could do with some high fantasy loot bullshit right now.
I said, let's get to Thursday.
Let's get to
That's
Thursday.
what I'm saying.
We're going to talk about Godfall. We're going to talk about other games. Maybe some Destiny.
What we talk about when we talk about
What we talk about Godfall. Yeah, of course. I'm Austin Walker. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Rob?
You can find me at Rob Zachney.
Looking at Valor plates?
No, he's at the Doc Hollywood Wikipedia page with the production notes.
The Alex B. Keaton fan wiki. Patrick Klepek, how about you?
You can find me at Patrick Klepek. Also, I have as of this morning, have a feature up on they're remastering the first season of Sam and Max. A bunch of ex-Telltale folks got together to release that on PC and Switch in early December. It looks really cool, and it's the features with the folks, some of the folks putting that together, kind of about what it's like to revisit a game 14 years later. And specifically, we spent a lot of time talking about like your temptation to change things and alter things when you're calling it a remaster. And, with Demon Souls coming out later this week, just, I think kind of fits interesting in that conversation because they actually went back and changed like comedic timing and other bits of that game that they think work better in retrospect. So
it's not just that's interesting. And it's the same. Is it some of the same people? Is it?
Yes, it's all folks that worked on the original season, but they also drew a line in the sand that they mostly tried to adhere to. That was, don't change things that you didn't work on. And so, if you were, they specifically spoke to like there was an instance where there was a puzzle where you get some like psychic powers in that first season, and there's a puzzle involving like a spoon you can bend, and I forget the details. But basically, like the way that like spoon like resets itself when you come back into the room doesn't make a lot of sense and isn't communicating to the player to the best of like maybe what it could. But none of the people that worked on the remaster worked on that like set dressing. And so they talked about different ways they could try and skirt around it, and then eventually just said, nope, like that's what they did originally. Leave that alone. Whereas like Jake Rodkin, who like did the whole interface for the first season of Sam and Max, was like, I worked on this. I fucking hate this interface now, and completely redid it. So that's like kind of, or like a guy who didn't do modeling but was tasked with doing a bunch of models for Sam Max season 1, is now a pretty good modeler. So we got to go back and do his models again. So it's like an interesting approach to
who's publishing
something
this?
like that.
What's
they bought the rights. They just straight up got them out of the fire sale. So this is not part of like the zombie Telltale Games that is maybe doing the Wolf Among Us season 2. I don't exactly know what the deal is with that new weird Telltale.
So wait,
but this is
go ahead. You finish this. I'll come back.
They're their own. I think they're called Skunk Ape Games. And they own it. Like they are owning the rights to they bought the rights to Sam Max season 1. They own the rights to that. They're publishing it on their own for PC and Switch. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Jake Rodkin, friend of the site, formerly of Idle Thumbs,
release a new podcast. You power.
Please, I'm begging you. I miss them so much. He's still at Steam or still at Valve, right?
Valve, yeah. He
was like a side project.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is something they've been doing on the side for like the last. I mean, like it's been like 2 years since the project sort of started.
Sure.
Where, they acquired the rights, but I think it's mostly been about a year. The last thing I'll say is like it was interesting for them to talk about. They originally were just going to acquire the rights, put out a patch that fixed a couple of bugs, let it run on modern hardware, and Sam Max season 1 was built on the original Telltale tool, their like in-house proprietary technology, which has famously always been like a total mess, but is apparently in a kind of a decent place now. They would have had to create development boxes for themselves running on Windows XP because the original Telltale tool will not run on modern like Windows hardware. So they would have had development environments on old unsecure versions of Windows. So then they quickly realized, well, let's put it on the new Telltale tool. And so they like ported it to the new Telltale tool, but none of the lighting came over. So the game had to be completely relit. So you start to see how they went from let's just like let it run on new machines to, well, if we have to do all the lighting again, well, then why wouldn't we do X, Y, Z? And so I think it looks really gorgeous. I remember liking that first season quite a bit and not playing the other seasons, even though I've heard the second and third seasons that's where they like really found their footing comedically. And so anyway, yeah. So I've got a feature up on the site right now about that you can check out.
Cool. We'll go check that out. Cado, where can people find you on the internet?
Playing Godfall.
Sitting in the tower waiting for the lights to go out.
Cado, should I go get? Is there still time for me to go get like a gun that I didn't get, like a cool exotic?
Yeah.
In this last day.
Well, especially you got those two. You got Outbreak Prime and Whisper of the Worm that are like 20-minute missions. You can get those. You just have to complete them, and you'll get the gun. They are kind of difficult. Those are the two that literally in another chat right now. Yeah.
That I'm in. Two of my friends literally just said the Whisper and the OP are both worth it.
Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
They are worth it, and they are easy to get in like an hour or so. So, if you're listening to this before 10 p.m. Eastern, there's gonna be... You can
get them after today, right? You just have to spend resources or something?
Yeah. It's gonna be like a new system where basically there'll be a kiosk where you can go buy them for a bunch of resources, but it's just like one of those resources will...
I hate this
you
game
can't
so
say
much.
kiosk without making me think of like a mall kiosk where they're saying like sunglasses, fake
right?
SNESs,
like, watches on the counter, and be like, I need new batteries for these. And hey, do you have that gun?
You got that haunted sniper rifle? Can I get that one? Yeah. No. That one.
And like the resources you'll need, like it's supposed to be like a lot to kind of make up for the fact that you're not doing these long quests anymore. It's like the same kind of like value.
Okay, well, I'll look into that. Maybe that's a fun way to kill a couple hours today.
Yeah.
Right,
that's worth noting, and this should be out by then, but 10 p.m. Eastern tonight is when the downtime starts for the whole, like until Beyond Light happens, and there's supposed to be some sort of event at the end in the tower, kind of similar to the Almighty event.
Are the lights really going out on the tower? Like
something, yeah. Like that's the phrase
Darkness
they
arrives.
Use. So,
bro, they should fucking kill the Traveler. I'm just gonna say
it's not gonna happen.
Attack and dethrone the Traveler.
The Traveler's gonna get better. The Traveler's about to get better because it's just an egg.
Its
parents are here now.
Oh wait, so we think
a dragon inside?
That is what we think. That is 100%. That is what I think. I do think that's true.
All right.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
I don't think it's a dragon.
Why? Don't
you
act
think it
like
is?
apoplectic. No. Like, oh, what do you mean, guys? What do you mean?
Obvious. Yeah. No, I don't think it's an Ahamkara. I think it's.
What do you think it is?
It's a pyramid. I think it's a pyramid.
I think it's a new pyramid inside the egg. I got you.
100%.
Okay.
Which is the pyramid.
Why
is
can't
also
the Traveler
a
just
dragon.
be an egg? Moon thing.
Because it has to develop into being the next form that it is. All things change in time.
Right? It's got to evolve.
Yeah.
Guys, we're keeping Gault hostage.
Yeah, on purpose. On purpose.
I'm just sitting here thinking about Yakuza.
I don't have time. Oh, I remember something about Yakuza that I want to yell about really quick.
Yeah.
Which is, I brought this up last time. I haven't played much more, so I can't go deeper into it. I'm only 12 hours in or something of what is probably a 60-hour game. Last time I was talking about the ways in which this game wants to address societal issues, but I didn't mention part of the reason why it all falls flat for me is it also makes jokes around them in the combat system, where one of your characters is a homeless guy who was he was a nurse. Now he's homeless, and that is a key part of the story. It's again, there's lots of in-game conversations about what it means to be homeless, why people are homeless, blah blah blah. But then, and it's hey, these people have dignity in their way, and this is not a personal choice, and blah blah blah. But then all of his attacks are he has real bad breath because he's homeless. All of it is played for comedy in a way that's yikes. You can't do both of these things. You can't be one of his attacks is one of his moves is he can self-heal for 90 HP by quickly throwing down cardboard wherever he's standing and taking a nap in the middle of the street. And it's oh, this isn't it, guys. You can't do both of these things and expect me to believe you when you say that you believe that homeless folks deserve better. It doesn't land. Anyway, I just needed to bring that up because if I didn't,
or it's more you end up portraying a world where obviously being homeless is fucked up, and it would be great if these people didn't exist as a class. Mm-hmm. Is where you begin pushing with that line of humor. Right?
Yeah.
See, I'm such a Yakuza baby. You know what I was thinking about?
What's that?
It's man, the Japanese audio track was so much better than the English
it's so
dub.
much better. It's much better.
It's night and day. I switched over to that last night, and it was just
And I'm not a subs over dubs guy generally, but it's so much better. I had to do the same thing.
Yeah, the voice actor for the main character for Ichiban is in the English dub is not great.
He doesn't sell it. It's rough. Anyway.
We forgot about Ace Combat 7. Okay, so Patrick, you'll be excited.
Can we
to
get
hear
your
about this.
F-35 thoughts?
You might think that jet fighters are expensive and multi-million-dollar tools of war and such, but I think one of the really interesting things in Ace Combat is that in this world, the Strange Rail, I met the dog. Let me tell you, something bad happens with that dog. Everyone's ha ha ha, the dog. That dog is a harbinger of tragedy.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, Patrick, so as a child of the American Empire, you probably look at an F-14 and you're that is a sophisticated, multi-million-dollar weapon of war. These things are precious.
This is a hell of a podcast.
In the world of the Strange Rail, these things are basically Mosin Nagant, bolt-action rifles. There's endless numbers of these things.
That's how Patrick thinks. He does make that sort of comparison all the time.
Yeah, and the pilots who fly them are just grunts, basically grunts of the skies. And one of the really interesting things this creates is that you begin making a really almost anti-war platoon style story about jet fighter pilots. It's as if despite the Top Gun aesthetics, you are in sort of the movie Platoon of a Vietnam era anti-war movie where it's this is all fucked and they don't care about us. And so over the course of Ace Combat 7, you are basically just thrown into this meat grinder, and the entire cast of characters you originally meet who are part of this penal battalion of pilots who are serving out their prison terms.
And being given warplanes to do that with.
Yeah. Basically ground into powder. Over the course of these missions. And so it becomes a much more interesting text than you might expect from a game that appears superficially to just be Top Gun was cool. I like the jet fighters.
You think it has more or less to say than the Sega CD FMV game Tomcat Alley?
Oh, I never played that.
You should look at.
Was that also a anti-empire?
I don't want to speak for you or for the creators. I think you should just go look up a playthrough, or honestly, you should get yourself a Sega
let's
CD.
Let's videos right now. Patrick, stick around.
Patrick, we should say the Tomcat Alley bit for Patrick. I know he's a big fan, so we'll have to do that on Thursday's show, Friday's show. Thank you again, Gault, for joining us. Where can people find you on the internet?
I'm at MJGAULT on Twitter.
Oh, that's a good rhythm to it.
Thank you.
That's good. That's good to say. And you were going to shout out something else really quick?
Can I shout out my podcast?
Yeah,
can I
of
do
course.
That? Is that a thing I can do here?
Yeah.
I run a national security and defense podcast called Angry Planet, and if you type that into the podcast places, it will appear.
That's a good name.
Have you considered doing YouTube videos where you're an angry NatSec nerd? Where it's like Matthew Gault, Angry Planet, and you're like, Matt Gault is pissed at the F-35, and you just get really aggro.
There's an emoji in the bottom left-hand corner with like the nuclear explosion coming out of it, right?
Trump did what to our Kurdish allies?
And all I do is read like a New York Times piece and get mad about it. And I'll
that's just every day around these parts.
Yeah, and I'll release 5
Waypoint.
10-minute videos every day.
Incredible.
It'll be gangbusters.
Can't wait. All right, that's going to do it for us. As always, you can find everything we do, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com. As always, thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that, waypoint.zone/BOEN. Is that it? Is there anything else? Is there anything else to shout out? I think that's probably it for us today. I hope everyone has a good week. I hope this week's energy is better than last week's. And until Friday, as always, fuck capitalism. Go home.
To the dark blue.
I'm truly fond of your Ace Combat renaissance here.
It's a good game.
It's a good game. It's just a good game. So what I said, remember what I said this when I first played it last year, is just like, it's cool to play a game that is structured in this way. That is like, here's a fucking mission. Run the mission. Check out a cool cutscene. Learn about this world some more. Do another mission that has a cool gimmick.
You know what I mean? Game.
It's a game-ass game. They don't make them like this anymore.
No, and it's like champagne at this point where I'm like, oh, I accumulated enough points to buy the better weapons. Okay, I will try this on the next mission. Oh, this game is so much easier now. It feels awesome. There's a progress curve.
The numbers go up. Yeah, It's good. The numbers go up, but not in the way they do in like Destiny, where it's all numbers going up. Everything is open and this is discrete. Like, it's good. Anyway, how y'all doing?
Good. Last probably nice day of the season. 75 degrees today.
75. God damn, it's 60 something here.
Whatever this last final wave of warmth I was talking to a parent in the park, it was like, it's whatever takes chips a week off the winter. You know, I like winter. I normally part of the reason I was excited to come back to the Midwest was I like seasons. I hated losing that out in the West Coast, but this winter is gonna fucking suck, and so. It can eat shit, and climate change can take over for a couple of months, and then we'll go back to fixing it.
Incredible.
So if you want snow pants, you should buy snow pants. They're already selling out.
I'm good. I guess I don't know. There have been years here where I've been like, I wish I'd had snow pants, but I had them up in Canada, and it was really snowy, and I still barely used them. So
they're a pain in the ass, and they don't feel good.
They're a pain in the ass. They don't feel good. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
What feels worse? Being drenched in water when you roll around in the snow. That feels worse.
When you
Here's the real. This is amateur stuff, Patrick. How did you live in the Midwest for like half your life? You haven't figured this out.
Wow.
Okay. So the thing is, you wear long underwear, and you wear like jeans or canvas pants. They form a crust of ice. Basically, you stop getting. You're not sitting there soaking wet in water. You're dry. Your pants are crusted over, and you're fine. It's like you have snow pants. This is the way you play it.
This is okay. Yeah, you know what? I guess in this situation where you refuse to get snow pants.
You're an Iceman over here.
This is gonna happen whether or not you like. It's not like I'm saying I freeze my pants.
Subplot. Like there was an ice episode this past week.
Oh my god.
Me out there draping, covering pants in water and draping them over my back porch railing.
Yeah, I'm making them
in a few more hours. Yeah, these are ready for walking.
Rob's walking around with like yelling at people who put on their snow pants. You don't have to do this.
This is a new ad read. I thought maybe we'd gotten a new sponsorship with some sort of
Get the crust.
Get the crust. All right. Time.is is the website. 25 seconds. All right.
I gotta close the door to mine.
Yeah.
Oh, no socks.
What? Oh, did Patrick have particularly good socks on?
I said no socks.
Oh, no socks. I said, look at those socks. I thought you said,
no, this is
socks.
The glory of
also
the
sockless. Yeah, it's nice out.
The glory of the final
of
heat wave is the dad sandals can live on for another week and a half. We went on like long walks this weekend, several miles. And you know what was on my feet? Goddamn sandals.
Yeah, sandals are great. Let me tell you about sandals. They're fucking the best. I'll wear those through fall every year. I don't care.
I was last year. I don't know. I had these specific pair of shoes that, like, no matter how many times I tied them together, just wouldn't stay tied. And Katie's like, you get shoes that just don't have. You don't have to tie them. You just kind of slip them on, and they're just like outdoor shoes. And I was like, that's. Break this iPhone. Buy me 3 pairs of that, please. And that changed my life, man.
What did you get?
I don't even know. They're just nice. I talked to my wife. She bought them. She's like, I got this. I'm gonna go get you those nice shoes.
Okay.
She bought me
boat shoes. Are they like
all my shoes? All my clothes.
I bought the like LL Bean's nice like all weather slip-ons and just life changing. I'm just like,
it is
because. You got a dog, and it like
the dog part is huge.
You're like, I can't confront this shit. I just need to be able to just like throw these on and take this fucking animal outside.
Love it. All right.